Waiting to buy a home? The Churchill Mortgage team says now is a great time to buy. Waiting could be a costly mistake because when rates drop, new home buyers will flood the market, driving up home prices. Go to churchillmortgage.com for your free analysis and see how home values can outpace rates to help you build wealth over time faster. This is a paid advertisement. NMLS ID 1591. NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing lender. 1749 Mallory Lane, Suite 100, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027.
Sometimes during Christmas, something magical happens.
Hey, Cricket customers. The Max with Ads plan is included with the Cricket $60 unlimited plan at no additional cost. And this holiday season, Max is the one to watch when you're feeling festive.
Son of a nutcracker!
Cozy up to all the holiday classics like Elf, 8-Bit Christmas, and the Harry Potter 8-film collection. Just log in with your Cricket username and password to experience Max on all your favorite devices. Phone plan streams and standard definition programming subject to change. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. What you know?
You got a headache or something?
Oh my gosh. No, but I'm getting my hair cut and colored today, so I'm going to feel born again come this afternoon.
I hear you.
I look very vampire-ish in this light.
I need a haircut. Not a color, but a cut.
I need a color because I'm gonna tell you, y'all seeing brown hair, it is root spray, y'all. It's been too long. So we want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, Too Cool T-Shirt Quilts. She sent us a picture of the winner's pillow today, and it's so cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate her doing that. And we're going to put a little video up where we show that a little bit later. So other than that, did you get like 1,000 different notifications today from Vine?
Yes.
For Chad?
Yes.
Man, my phone was blowing up. I haven't even looked at him yet, but I think they were just scheduling his trial maybe.
Yeah. They
put a bunch of dates on there for like the end of January, February next year.
Yep.
So we're going to finish up the Night Stalker today. It shouldn't take too long. If you guys remember where we left off last time was when the investigator Falzon from San Francisco had found somebody who was given a bracelet that they thought was connected to the Night Stalker. So they go to the apartment, put him in the car, rough him up a little bit, and he finally gives a name. So that's where we left off. And so if you remember, Gil and Frank have been investigating this in LA since the beginning. So they find out that they have a name that San Francisco was able to get, and it's Richard Ramirez. They looked into their system and found 8 men named Richard Ramirez. And so they used the print from that rear view mirror of the stolen Toyota. And back then they had to manually compare these fingerprints, and one was a match. So he had a record of petty thievery and grand theft auto, but nothing violent. So they were able to pull up a booking photo for him. And on August 30th, they asked the informant to look at the booking photo and confirm that was Richard. So that night they're having a conference with investigators from Orange County and San Francisco to decide if they should release his name and picture. And at this point, they already had a warrant for his arrest. San Francisco wanted to put his name out there, and Gil and Frank wanted to wait 24 hours to try and catch him. But Falzon up in San Francisco did not want to wait. He said the media would rip them to shreds if they knew that they had an ID of the Night Stalker, but sat on it. And he also said they would have blood on their hands if someone else was killed by him. And Gil and Frank understood, but their concern was that he may run if he knows they've identified him and they have a warrant for his arrest, which could hinder them finding him.
Sure.
But they go public anyways. LA and San Francisco both decide that they're just going to put it out there. So August 31st of 1985, his photo and name are put into papers. And that librarian that we talked about in that first episode recognized him. Remember, he went in there, said he smelled literally like a goat.
Yep.
And he wanted books on, I think, astrology and torture. So authorities learned that. What?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no.
Why do we have books in our library about torture?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not one for censoring library books, but if there's gonna be some you take off, maybe how you torture people is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Well,
the 80s, go figure.
Right. Well, you think about it. I mean, back in the 80s, even the early 90s, all of this stuff was just detective work.
Yeah.
You didn't have, you were manually comparing fingerprints, no DNA. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So authorities figured out that Richard had used the Greyhound bus depot frequently, and he had a locker there. So they set up surveillance. On August 31st, they find out that Richard is in Arizona visiting his brother. He came back and they're looking for him to come inside the depot from the outside, but he came in through the back door where passengers come in. And Richard notices the undercover cops because they're dressed bad, but what clued him in was that they don't smell bad and their teeth are good. So he walks out and goes into a liquor store and he sees his face on newspapers everywhere. The worker who was there at the time said he looked petrified and he leaves. So he gets on a bus to what they think is head to East LA where his brother lives. And he sees people on the bus looking at the paper and looking at him. And the passenger's eyes got really big. So this passenger pulls the emergency stop cord on the bus and he goes right to a phone booth and Richard sees him making a call. So people start to point and realize that it's Richard Ramirez. It's the Night Stalker. So Richard jumps off the bus and takes off running. He actually ran across a huge freeway out there. He tries to carjack a man named Faustino Pinion, who wrestled him and grabbed him by the neck at one point. So Richard runs across the street and down another and tries to carjack a woman who recognizes him as the Night Stalker. So a man named Manuel de la Torre ran out and got a metal pipe and hit him in the head. Richard tries to run, so he hits him again.
Okay, first of all, like, those people are lucky. He could have easily held those people hostage and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
you know
what I love about this story, though, is like Gil and Frank did an amazing job, but in the end, it was the very communities he was terrorizing that caught him.
Yeah, caught it with a lead pipe. It could be
twice
Clue.
Upside the noggin.
Clue. What was the guy's name? De la Torre in the conservator with a lead pipe. Yeah. Yeah. So people were chasing him down the street. In an interview later, Richard said Manuel was telling his wife to get his gun so he could shoot him. Richard said he was so tired at this point he didn't care. He sees a sheriff's car down the road. Andy Ramirez, a local LA deputy, got a call about a possible fight. He could see 3 to 4 people on one side of the street, and he could see they were yelling and screaming, and saw Richard sitting on the curb. A witness said Richard said he was lucky the cops were coming. No joke.
You know what's funny, though? If you look at some of the past interactions he had with survivors, he was scared. Here's the Night Stalker running from a guy that had a bullet in his head. I mean, you see that when he's confronted, he's terrified. He mainly got these people when they were asleep.
Yeah. It's like he took on a different persona in that instant,
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he was just
right.
Yeah, totally different. But so Richard had blood on his head and his shirt. He was taken into custody. The crowd was growing. They were circling the car and they had newspapers saying, "Let's get him." Richard said he was mad how things turned out and that he was under arrest. Duh.
Sorry, dude.
I'd have turned him loose.
Heck yeah, I'd have been like, oops, he flipped out of his cuffs. Give him a little push.
Yeah.
I'll have him.
Yeah, he escaped. He said he spit at the crowd and stuck his tongue in and out like a snake. Back at the Holenback police station, people had surrounded the place. Linda, the crime scene technician, was asked to fingerprint Ramirez. She said his eyes were black and she could sense evil in him. Her partner offered to print him because she knew Linda did not. She didn't want to.
Mm-mm.
In an interview room, Frank said he was just like how witnesses described him. Frank introduced himself, and Richard said, "I know who you are." He called him Mr. Salerno because he worked the Hillside Strangler case, and those murders were held in high regard to Richard. Hey guys, now it's time to share about our sponsored ad for this week, June's Journey. And Gigi, I have to admit, I get more and more obsessed with this every time I play it.
It's really fun. And I've talked to some of our listeners, and it seems like they're liking it too. So, in June's Journey, you play as June Parker, an amateur detective investigating a series of mysteries full of twists and turns around every corner. You'll put your observation to the test, sharpen your sleuthing skills, and relish the thrill of solving the case.
This game is so unique. It's hard for me to find a game that truly captivates me, but this game is like really cool. It definitely does that. I love looking for the hidden objects at every level, and I love how the game develops chapter by chapter.
Yeah, well, me and 30 million people agree with you on that. I like the style and how it kind of takes you back to the roaring 20s. And so when you're playing, you really do feel like you're a detective helping solve this case. It's a great whodunit game.
You're so right. The graphics on this game are what the world good. Another thing that's awesome is that June's Journey is free to download. You guys have got to go play it and let us know how much you love it.
There's definitely a detective in all of us. Find your inner detective and download June's Journey free today on the Apple Store or Google Play.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Every day, my company gets scam phishing emails trying to get money or sensitive info. I wanted to protect my employees and my clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. First, teach employees to recognize and report phishing. Next, require strong passwords plus multi-factor authentication. And finally, turn on automatic updates for your business software. To learn more, go to CISA at CISA.gov/Secure Our World.
He admitted to Frank that he researched the Hillside Strangler and Ted Bundy. Frank said he was a student.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Richard used his right to not talk to Frank. So Frank and Gil go to leave, and Richard tells him to wait. He had questions, so they stay, and Gil talks to him. Gil uses some street slang to talk to him. Gil said one part of the interview scared him, and it was where they were talking about Richard's family, and Richard has his head on the table, and his fists are balled up, and Richard starts breathing heavily, and his hands lift up off the table. Gil said if he starts to levitate, I'm out of here.
That was so funny because Gil said, I've been shot, I've been stabbed, but I've never tried to fight somebody who's levitating, and I wasn't going to start.
Oh, man.
So when they were moving him to the central jail, they see a woman on top of a car, and as the police car passes, this lady opens her shirt up.
Oh, Law.
And Frank, and I mean, it's clear that it was for Ramirez, which is crazy. But
yeah,
Frank told Richard they were going to put him in the same cell as the Hillside Strangler that he was in. And that was exciting to Richard. Gil and Frank kind of hoped that doing that would open him up to talking to them. So this is what, man, I almost got really teary when this part came on. They did a lineup. I'm going to post this lineup video of him. He looks very strange in this. He's looking up. You can see him swallowing hard. I don't know, obviously, what he was thinking, but I'm telling you, this guy's not, he's not we know he's not normal, but I mean, seriously, like it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So they had this 6-year-old come to identify him. Anastasia, she's the one that he put in the duffel bag and repeatedly assaulted her and dropped her off on the side of the road. She said that when she realized that he couldn't see her, she had no hesitation. And when the investigator asked if anyone had any questions, she raised her hand and said, "Do I write the word 2 or the number 2?" She was very instrumental in identifying him as the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
The prosecutors obviously asked for death, and the prosecutors Phil Haplin and Alan Yokelson were assigned to the case. See, there we go with the big names that I get. And the trial was a circus. So Arturo and Daniel Hernandez defended Richard. They were really young lawyers. They only had been in a couple of years, and Richard played the crowd up. I mean, he really did. It was a performance almost for him. They had done 6 murder cases, but none of those had death on the table. So Ricardo Ramirez, which is Richard's father, called Arturo and asked if he would take the case because they had both grown up together in El Paso and knew common people. The prosecution said in the arraignment that his lawyers had no standing in the court, and Richard spoke up and said, "They do to me." October 24th, Richard is in court, and that's when he holds up his palm. It's a very famous picture with the pentagram on the palm drawn in. He pled not guilty, and after the hearing was over, he was being led out of the courtroom, and he said, "Hail Satan." You can hear the gas from inside the courtroom. What's crazy to me is, I mean, these serial killers that have groupies, he had groupies that would show up to court, and he would turn and flirt with them. And I mean, these girls they were in the court every day. And reporter Tony Valdez said he'd never seen a defendant with more sex appeal than Richard Ramirez.
Okay, it's crazy. I mean, he murdered people.
And not only that, he assaulted children numerous times. And you have to wonder, why? I mean, he got married in prison. Eventually, crazy. He got married to a woman. And on the documentary, they show some of the photos that he was sent while he was in prison. And I mean, it's just women naked.
That's crazy.
So before the preliminary hearing, investigators went to the home of 6-year-old Anastasia, and she whispered something to her mom. And her mom said Anastasia remembered Gil the best because he reminded her of a teddy bear.
Oh. So she said she would testify if it means he stays locked up and can't hurt any other little girls like he hurt me. Gil and Frank had to go to the kitchen because they were crying. Phil Halpin, the prosecutor, joined them crying, and he decided they would drop the cases involving the kids to keep them from testifying.
And I think, he had 13 deaths on the table, and I think that definitely probably was the right call. You don't want a bunch of small kids having to sit on the stand looking at him looking at them, and it's just re-victimizing. I mean, I'm sure PTSD. I think that was definitely the right call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. January 31st, 1989, 3.5 years after his arrest, he goes to trial. There you go, guys. There's that 3.5 year wait.
Yep.
Prosecutors called 140 witnesses. Maria Hernandez, who survived by putting her hands up, that's the one where the bullet deflected off her keys, she testified. September 20th, 1989, Richard is found guilty on 43 counts. November 7th, 1989, he is sentenced to death. Richard said at the sentencing, "I don't need to hear all of society's rationalizations. I've heard them all before, and the fact remains that what is. You don't understand me. You're not expected to. You're not capable of it. I'm beyond your experiences. I'm beyond good and evil." On the way out, he said, "Death always went with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland." He's crazy. Gil and Frank went that day to his cell, and Richard asked Gil, "Are you going to come to my execution?" And Gil said, "I don't know." He said, "Frank, what about you?" And Frank said, "Yes, I am." On his way to San Quentin, Falzon was in the car, and Richard said, "Hey, Falzon, do you want to know about the 2 old ladies on Telegraph Hill, wouldn't you?" And Falzon said they had a previous murder of 2 elderly ladies in Telegraph Hill. It was a horrible crime scene. Richard laughed and said it was me. In 1994, Richard agreed to be interviewed by Philip Carlo, a crime writer. Richard died of cancer after 24 years on death row. A female juror who helped convict him became a groupie.
That blew my mind.
That's crazy.
That person had to sit there through all of that evidence and still at the end of it, at some point,
I'm baffled.
Well, every serial killer, it seems, have their followings. The Menendez brothers did. I mean, Ted Bundy did. These people get married in prison. Okay, first of all, you shouldn't be getting married in prison if you're in there for murder. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's crazy. But, I think that I have to say, doing true crime, I have not followed or read up on a lot of serial killers. There's something about it that just bothers me to my core, that somebody chooses to go and just do this for fun. I mean, self-defense cases are so different. You know what I mean? But like somebody that repeatedly goes and murders, this, I'm telling you, man, this dude's like crept into my dreams at night. It freaks me out.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, we've had a lot of listeners that have messaged us on like Twitter and all that saying, hey, I lived in LA during the Night Stalker. It was the scariest we've ever been. And I bet so. I had some family that lived out there and they said the same thing.
Hey, do you remember, I think for us, the closest, and this wasn't even near us, remember those, the father and the son who were doing the shootings?
Up in Maryland?
Yeah, remember?
Oh, yeah. They were doing the DC sniper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a good ways away from us, but you never knew because we have a main interstate that runs through here.
Yeah. I remember there was a little bit of panic, but.
Yeah, but not like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really fascinated with the psychology of serial killers, the nature versus nurture. What's strange is pretty much, I mean, but like Ted Bundy had a very normal childhood, I think. I mean, there are some that have normal childhoods, and then there's people like Ramirez who had a very messed up childhood.
Yeah.
So
looking at Ted Bundy, I mean, he had a wife and stuff at home.
And he had a stepdaughter that loved him dearly, but man, I mean, talk about messed up. Anyway, so that's our first serial killer series. You guys said you wanted to. I think next we may look at Ted Bundy. I really, to be honest, don't know a ton other than just basic stuff. So I'm really interested to learn about him and what he did for years. I didn't even know he like escaped. Yeah. And went back out.
Yeah. He escaped through there was like a office type library window in the courthouse or whatever, and he jumped out the window.
Crazy. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate y'all listening in on this. And if you have any serial killers that you want us to cover, shoot us a message on social media or email us prettyliesandalibis@gmail.com. And we will see you soon. Hope you have a good weekend.
Yep.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.